All right.
You sure you want to do this?
No.
Yeah, all right. Let's do it.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to Filling in the Gaps. I'm Justin.
I'm Darren.
Today we're going to talk about a movie called Threads, a documentary about clothing in the 90s.
Yeah, there you go.
Or how about Threads, a detective movie where somebody has to follow the leads and, I guess, unravel the mystery. How would that be?
Probably more heartwarming, at least, even if it was a double homicide.
What we're going to talk about today is called Threads from 1984. If you want to go in completely blind, you're basically going to have to turn away now because I have to give a lot of warnings about this movie. Threads is, from what I understand, a made-for-TV movie.
Yep.
It is possibly the most British thing I have ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It is very highly rated. IMDb has it at an even 8.0 with 11,000 reviews. And that's usually a pretty good mark. 8 and above is usually a very good movie. Metascore was 92 with over 250 reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, now the critics are only 11, but it has a 100% approval rating. But audience, 2,700 people have gone back and left a review of this movie that is from 1984, and it has a 92% approval.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I can believe that.
I kind of can't. I am utterly shocked by this. I can't really get into why until we really start talking about the movie. It is good. Like, it's definitely well made.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely has a quality to it, and a quality to it that doesn't always feel like made-for-TV movie. It feels like something more. They made this for, at least on IMDb, an estimated, I guess, £400,000.
Pounds? All right.
But back in 84, but even still, that seems low budget for what we have here. I don't think that there's any actors you're going to recognize.
There's a woman from Blue Peter.
Which I haven't seen, so...
Like a kid's show.
Your director is Mick Jackson, who I hadn't heard of. Writer was Barry Hines. His name comes at the beginning and the end.
Yeah. I don't know who Barry Hines is.
But I've never heard of him before, but boy, was he all over Threads, apparently.
Yeah.
Before we discuss this movie, before you go to see this movie, I do feel that this is a movie that warrants whatever trigger warning you don't want to have. If you have trigger warnings, things that will really set you off, things that will really depress you or give you anxiety, that's this movie all throughout. This movie, here's what it's about, so here's your spoiler if you want to go in blind. This movie is about essentially nuclear war and nuclear holocaust and all the terrible things that are going to happen. So you're going to see death in almost every possible way that could be related to this, and some that are kind of tangential. It is not a happy movie in any way, right up to the very last second.
Yep.
Beware of that if you really want to go into it. Is it really well made? Yes. The explosion scene and montage in particular is fantastic. It just works very well from a storytelling point of view, as well as just cinematically. The rest of it, though, not much story. It definitely has a much more documentary feel, almost so much so that in my notes I went, this feels so real.
Yeah.
Down to some other things I'm going to get to as I go through it, but wow, it's not an easy movie to get through.
Yeah, I saw this when I was 7, man.
Well, it's very informative, I guess. It's kind of surprising to me that this would have been on TV.
It was on TV, and my parents were just like, oh yeah, Threads. It was on about maybe just after dinner, so it was on about 7 or 8 o'clock. And
see, I thought this would be like a 9 o'clock.
Yeah, no.
Because is it 9 o'clock where there's
Watershed, yeah.
Adult stuff can happen
or at least there is now. Well, back in those days as well, like in the UK in the 80s, early 80s, at maybe 10 or 11 p.m., you had like an old vicar come on with his white collar and like give his final prayer for the night. Then the television would switch itself off and be like, right, go to bed, everyone. the TV would stop.
The station would stop?
Yeah. They'd have an old vicar come on and say his little story for the night, and then the TV would just go off to test page.
Yeah, we had that as well, same time period, but it would not have been a vicar. It would have just been some sort of patriotic slide.
Okay,
essentially, with some sort of, this is the end of today's broadcast.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know how long that would play, and then, yeah. You'd have the test signal until the morning.
Until the morning, and then you'd wake up on a Saturday morning for your cartoons, and it would still be on. You'd be eating your cereal and counting it down. Billy Connolly did a really good stand-up bit of that as well, like making fun of those guys at the end of the night, and how he'd really like to mess with people.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I watched Threads when I was 7, man, and going through it again, I was like, I must have watched this twice, because I do kind of remember this, bam, here's the point where my parents sent me to bed. Because it's such a disturbing movie, man. That's kind of why I wanted to watch it.
Did they send you to bed before it was over?
Yes.
Well, okay, that I totally understand, and I probably agree.
And I think it probably, because I didn't realize it was so long, it's almost a 2-hour movie as well.
Yes, and we need to talk about that, because the first
40, I think I wrote it down, the first 49 minutes. It's 49 minutes until the bomb drops.
Yes.
And it's so British.
so much so. I think we need to get into the spoiler section, because I think we're going to start ruining things soon. Threads, 1984. If you really want to watch it, if you really want to watch a movie about what could happen in a nuclear war or the fallout that happens afterwards, well, this is the one for you. It's marked in IMDb as being sci-fi, drama, something else.
It is a documentary, though, definitely.
It feels like a faux documentary. It doesn't really feel like sci-fi to me.
I wouldn't say sci-fi, it's certainly not a tag I would give it.
It's much more drama, and that's what I would go with. But don't go into it thinking you're really going to fall in love with any of the characters. It's not that kind of thing. It is a documentary that will follow the lives of...
like 2 families, basically.
And a whole bunch of other things as well. So... it's not that kind of movie. This is meant to be mostly informative.
And it's supposed to be, I think the bottom line is, back in the day, because we're talking, this was 1984, it was like 5 years before the official end of the Cold War. I was scared, everyone was scared, and this was a movie to make people realize, like, don't push that button.
Right.
Because it's absolute madness and utter chaos that lies down that path.
And I think it does a good job of that.
Yeah, it does.
With that, I think it's time we head into the spoiler section. To start off with, I will say, I'm not sure how good of a gaps movie this is to discuss, because, my goodness, there are no gaps. This movie fills in any tiny little crack with everything. Oh,
say, hey, you wondering what happens to that person? Like, here you go.
Let's have some narration that will tell you exactly what's going on, or some text on the screen that's going to tell you what's going on, and exactly where everything is located, and the exact day and time.
And how many megatons, and how many rads of radiation. I don't know, when I suggested this to you, I think it was for 2 reasons. One, I was filling in my own gap in my mind, like, this movie really is depressing as what I remember it to be. The answer to that is probably yes.
Were you also trying to fill in the gap of, well, I never got to finish this as a kid, and now I can.
And then the second gap is that a lot of people haven't seen this, and I think it's I think it still holds up pretty well today. It is dated, but...
but in a way that I think works. It was the time when we were most likely to have this thing happen.
Right.
And I think a lot of the information regarding what would happen would still be true today.
Because I think there's a pretty good American similar movie to this. I can't remember what it's called though. But it's all about, it's kind of the same thing, but it's the American version.
There must have been some sort of happy ending then.
But there was, yeah, exactly. There was a happy ending. This is like...
You're not going to get that in this one.
No, you're not going to get that one here. Not even in the slightest. There's nothing, not even a little bit. For someone, there's a happy ending. No. But yeah, it's very dated. It was so funny watching this again, watching like the old like electric milk floats going around and all the
Were they electric?
Yeah, because they used to drive around at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning, so they were all electric powered, so that they didn't wake up people on the streets.
They'd be like golf cart kind of thing.
Yeah, basically. Okay. like the paper shops and things like that. Yeah, it was interesting to watch that again. Yeah, it's very, very typical. Yeah, it's none of those are sets. That's definitely the UK back in the 80s. Yeah.
We're going to open with some narration. The narrator is quite good. He is either overused or underused. I'm not exactly sure in this one. He just seems to come out of nowhere at times. It's like they watched their finished product and went, well, we're not really sure people are getting it. We'll just throw him in here. It's not like he was there for every day or every segment.
Right.
He just, at random, hello, I'm back again and I'm the narrator. And here's something else that's tragic. Like, that's basically what I got out of it. When we started off with him, I thought we were going to have him throughout, and the way he's just so intermittent is kind of weird.
Yeah, he comes in and out, and he's really, like the old school kind of BBC documentary guy.
He probably was somebody they had in-house, right?
Yeah, and he kind of reminds me of like the original Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy narration.
A little bit, and who knows? He could have been one of them.
Might be the same guy.
One of the 4,000 versions that they've put out, yeah. We're going to open with a stock footage of a spider weaving a web. And basically, right from the first second, they're trying to tell us why the movie is called Threads. And it's because all the links in society are connected. And once you take one apart, they all start to fall apart. I don't like that. I don't like for a number of reasons. One, they're trying to make us get the impression that a spider web, which seems so fragile, that our world is like that. But the thing is, spider webs are designed to be torn apart. Insects can come in, totally mess up huge sections of the spider web. It will still remain. It's designed to handle all those kind of problems.
Right.
It's only wimpy to us because we're so much bigger and can walk through it.
Yeah, NASA's actually trying to work out a way to mass produce spider silk so that they can build tension cables that will take like space elevators and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's the other thing. Spider silk is incredibly strong as it is, as a substance. Here's the other problem, though. What they're trying to say here is that if you break down one element, then the rest falls apart. That would be great if that's what this movie was about. But this movie is about everything going wrong all at once. Like, absolutely everything goes wrong. It's not one tiny thread we're pulling apart. We're just totally knocking out the whole society.
Yeah, you're knocking out all of Sheffield in one go. It's like, yeah, it's not a thread, man. That's like...
So weird.
That's the whole jumper.
Which would have been a much better analogy, I think. If you start pulling...
I mean, they do that like 3/4 of the way through the movie where they're pulling apart like old sweaters and stuff to take the threads out of them so that they can make new sweaters. I don't know why they're... I think maybe it was rugs or something they were pulling apart. I get that. Or like just from the thing we did with City of Lost Children where his like jumper gets totally pulled apart. But yeah, the spider thing is just like...
It's not a good analogy.
No, and I don't really see the need to be like... And it's not even like the credits roll and then we get a spider's web. It's like 2 seconds in. There's not even been a title on the screen. And like, oh, this is why the movie's called Threads. Like, do you understand this?
Settle down, Barry Hines.
Yeah, give me a chance, Barry.
We haven't even seen your name yet.
Yeah.
One of the 2 at least times we're going to see your name. We start on a shot of Sheffield overlooking the factories.
Beautiful Sheffield.
It's March 5th, Saturday, March 5th. And then we are looking at a car at an overlook, which I guess is looking down over the factories. And there's a couple in the car, and they look on as a jet passes by, even though the jet has no reason to be there, I guess to imply that war is on or something. Jimmy is like, he's turning the radio because it's time for the football scores. Mm-hmm. Ruth, his girlfriend, gets upset with him, and then he makes a pass at her, and she gets more upset, so he walks out and brings back some weedy flowers and saying that they're lucky, and then weird like, how about if I get lucky? And then clearly it must happen because that's going to lead to all the rest of their sad story.
Yeah.
Thursday, May 5th. We get a lot of news coverage throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, and always in the background, like people are like, oh, let's listen till I switch it off. You know, it's like little clips of news.
They're talking about Soviets in Iran, and they're at the pub. We find out that Ruth is pregnant, and Jimmy doesn't seem very happy about it. Sunday, May 8th, we're at a newsstand, which I don't think is related to anybody else. It's just this woman and her daughter, right? The one with the headphones.
Yeah.
And we only see them a couple times, I think. It's just very random. It's just so that we can see the news article headline, I guess. Why? I couldn't figure this out. Why is she writing numbers in the top? Is she writing a price at the top?
Yeah, like it'll be for a paper round, so it might be the address of that'll be the numbers of the houses on the street, or it might be the price of the paper should be printed on. No, I think it
would be. It
would have been the street name or the house numbers.
For this is not a custom I'm used to.
Right.
I used to deliver papers, and with me, I just had to learn the route, and I had to know where all of them were. So when she's writing the numbers on there, I was like, is it because this edition is late or something? This is late in the day and it gets discounted? I couldn't figure out why she was writing it on there.
Just because maybe different papers to different houses or something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
It's something that's lost to time now, I think.
Definitely lost to time.
We have one of the most uncomfortable yet very real feeling dinners at Jimmy's house. The parents
I love the dad coming in with his pink apron on. What the hell is that, man?
His family is just too real.
Yeah.
The parents and Jimmy are sitting there eating. Parents are complaining that Jimmy wasn't careful. Jimmy's like, well, it's not my problem. And the mom's like, well, you gotta take some responsibility here. And the younger brother and sister are just trying to hear in, even though the parents don't want them to. It's like, well, then don't have the discussion here.
At the dinner table, in the living room,
Why are the other two kids not getting to eat now? Is there not enough room? Did they have to eat later? It's so weird. Yeah, the sister's very nosy. Michael is there playing some old ColecoVision game, which I had no idea what it was. It looked like a blob trying to eat his character. But there you have it. We now go to some text where it talks about Sheffield, the fourth largest city in Britain, population 545,000. But how the mighty have fallen, because I looked it up. They're now sixth with only 818,000.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So a couple others must have passed them by.
Well, they do cover that in the movie as well. Like Sheffield, a lot of the industry shut down, so I guess a lot of the people moved out.
Well, their main industries, as the movie told me, were engineering, chemicals, and steel. Yeah,
it was a big steel place. And I think Portishead are from there, so...
Well...
It's probably one of their better exports.
It's one of their main industries now, I suppose. Wednesday, May 11th. Ruth's family waits for Jeremy's to show up. Their family feels slightly more well-to-do. I mean, everything doesn't feel cramped as it does in the other place.
Yeah, they got the nice bay windows and stuff like that. They seem more upper-class than Jimmy's family, at least.
The parents tend to speak well, but it doesn't look like they're very high-class, though, right?
No.
They still have a very normal-looking house.
Yeah, and very typical house. Like that house where the front door leads right onto the stairs and goes up. When you saw that in Harry Potter, that wasn't just something that they put in for Harry Potter to live under. No, that is the UK.
Welcome to the front door and the stairs.
Yeah.
And the stairs take up almost as much of the whole kind of corridor.
Yeah.
You have to squeeze by the stairs to get into the living room.
Yeah.
And I was just laughing about that because, that was so genuine. They must have just rented out this house or something.
Definitely. It's probably one of the actors' houses or something, one of the actors' mums and dad's house.
Maybe that's how they kept the budget down.
Yep.
The news is talking about a missing U.S. submarine. It's really not...
That never comes up again, really, does it?
I think they do mention it one more time in a news article. But here's the thing, and I don't want to spend too much time in the news articles. They're there to give you the looming foreshadowing that something bad is going to happen. And that it doesn't just happen out of nothing, but all these different steps. Right? So in this case, in the 80s, as we know, looking at a lot of 80s movies, the Soviet Union was the baddies for quite a lot of our TV, our film. And here, again, this was a long time ago, but that was the day, right? That was the age that this was made in. And so it's talking about things that I don't think happened, but my sense of history is not the best. I'm not a history person. And even though, I was alive in those days, I was a kid. I don't really know a lot there. So I don't know if any of this was based on real things that happened.
Oh, like the whole Iran stuff.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that was real. I think there was definitely a lot of tensions in Iran around the 80s.
I know there were, but I don't know if it had anything to do with the Soviet Union or invading at the time, because that's what it made it sound like.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
So, apologies, listeners. I'm not good at history, and I'm just going to put that out there, and I didn't go look it up. To me, the new stuff was all building up as plausible stuff that definitely could happen. Whether it did, whether it didn't, I don't think really matters. The stuff is plausible, and thus things that could lead to the kind of war that everybody feared at the time.
Right.
So I'm not going to go over it too much. Just know throughout the entire movie, up until the explosion, you get news all the time.
Yeah. The one thing that I thought was unfortunate was, like, you don't, or at least I missed it, but for all this build-up and build-up and build-up and tension about this looming war, you never actually, or at least I didn't pick up on the exact trigger. And maybe that's kind of the point, is that it was just the straw that broke the camel's back that led to this. But there didn't seem to be some huge, oh, you did this, we're going to start launching nukes. I didn't hear that part.
I'm not sure what the final one was, but there is a point where, it says that a nuclear missile was launched, and that obviously is what leads to everything else. But as far as what caused that actual missile to be launched, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Thursday, May 12th, Jimmy and Ruth are looking at a home to buy. We get a clip of Headphone Girl as she's doing her French homework for some reason.
Just daily life.
The narrator comes in and explains, because we wouldn't know otherwise, this whole contingency plan about having local governments take over if something happens to the national government, or if the national government decides to do this. It was very kind of weird, but it was one of those times where it just felt so forced. Here's something that could happen, and it happens like 2 seconds later.
Yeah. No, it is ridiculous, like the whole contingency plan that they've got. And as far as I know, that I Googled some stuff about Threads after that to see how real it was. Supposedly, these were the measures that were in place. It's almost as bad as the whole duck and cover thing, It's
right.
Like, this is like zero protection. Like, who are you fooling? But
that definitely was the impression that I got, was it was in the movie because it was possible.
Yeah.
So we're going to see, it's interesting, he's like a chief peace officer, but in time of war, he'll become the chief war officer.
Right.
And that is, I had to look it up, Mr. Sutton. So
right.
Sutton is kind of in charge, and boy, does he take charge. Like, he seems like a type of person I would want to have this position, because the second he gets that envelope that's top secret, he immediately starts contacting everyone. I need to talk to everyone. I need to get an idea of what we're dealing with now. And I was pretty impressed with that.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't just like shrug it off as, oh, it's just a drill. He's like, takes it very, very seriously. And leaves his wife behind as well. Like, everything.
They do a lot with that, actually, with him, where it's so funny. In the US, if this was made in the US, there'd be so much drama behind that. And they just do these very subtle things where
she just packs his
he's
toilet
looking
bag.
He's looking at her picture, and then they're just having this little discussion of her going, well, you don't have to do this position. I'm going, well, somebody has to. You didn't complain when I took the
training,
courses.
Yeah.
No heated argument, just a bit of very light bickering, perhaps, and that's about it. And give me my suitcase, and I'm going to go. Even when later he wants to know if his wife is dead, he's basically just pointing on a map and saying, what about this area?
And the guy that he's talking to is like, oh man, that's totally trash, that place.
Right. And it just got a quick shot to the picture of his wife. No drama.
Yeah, that's it.
I love it. I love the way that is done. But boy, is that not the way that we would typically do that scene. We're going to see Jimmy's mother. I think it's Jimmy's mother in an overfilled shop. Just tons of people start to panic buying.
The panic buying, which is a bit too close to the nerve today.
Yeah, so we know that this likely would happen.
Yes.
And then there's the whole, I can't remember if it's this scene or a later one where people are complaining, oh, well, that was 26p last week, and now it's 40p this week. And he's like, well, don't buy it then. And oh no, that's when everything goes bad. And so everybody's just running out of the shops with their trolleys full.
Yeah.
You're complaining about 14p and you now lost everything, basically.
Yeah.
We're going to cut to Thursday, May 19th. We're going to find out the supplies aren't what the war officer, Mr. Sutton, had hoped for. But that's pretty much going to be his role and his group's role for the rest of the movie, is just to know how we don't have enough.
Well, for as long as they're alive.
Jimmy goes to some sort of weird gardening co-op. It's just kind of weird to me because it's not something that I would have had in my area.
Not something I would have had in mine either. It's like, I don't even know why that scene is in there, to be honest. I mean, it kind of makes sense maybe when later on they're like, every scrap of farming land is needed for food and stuff like that. So they're kind of commandeering everything.
It almost seems like it's just here so we can see another stock footage of military jet takeoff.
Yeah.
And for him to set up the fact that he's going to go down to the pub, I guess.
Yeah.
We get some text about RAF Finningley, I think?
Yeah.
Likely to house U.S. Phantom jets. It's 5 miles from Doncaster. Which don't know why we
need anything
in this movie. Why do we need to know that? But it's 17 miles from Sheffield.
Yeah, I mean, Doncaster was another big industry town. And it's probably there more for the British audience, just to like, if this is near you, you can feel special too, Doncaster. Don't worry, we're not leaving you out.
I guess so. I had the opposite reaction when I was watching that, going, well, don't people know where it is? I mean, obviously, I don't know where every place is in the UK, but I would expect that people who live there would know. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's an RAF base down the road.
I think your point is quite good. It's to say it could be you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they had all the people leaving for all those different areas as well. Well, all these people, you feel connected because these people are trying to get to where you are as well. I don't know.
Hopefully
important.
It worked out for that family that was paranoid enough to pack up everything and leave.
Yeah, well, our guess would be no.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody has a happy ending in this movie, so...
But we don't see them again, so maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe it's as close as you have.
Yeah, to a happy ending. Like, remember those 3 guys and their dog that escaped?
Jimmy's down at the pub. His mate, who we'll find later is called Bob, is checking out some ladies at the end of the table. The guy behind the bar changes the news because it's depressing news and everybody stops chatting and having a good time. But they all complain, so he turns it back.
Yeah.
And then Bob's like, oh, let's go chat up the ladies. This could be our last chance. It's going to be yours anyway, since you're going to be a single guy. So, Jimmy, we're going to see in the backseat of a car with steamy windows with one of those ladies.
Mm-hmm.
So we know he's not the nicest guy.
Yeah.
And also, we don't actually see military trucks. We see a ton of headlights reflected on the glass. And so I guess we're meant to think that it's military, I'm assuming.
Right.
And they look kind of shocked. Saturday, May 21st, we see protests against the nuclear war. Britain wants to be cautious, but on the next day, Sunday, May 22nd, there's still protests, but now there are people protesting the protest, saying you're being too wimpy, and if they do it to us, we should do it to them, which was a lot of the rhetoric and propaganda in the day.
Yeah.
At noon, so obviously, this is what the movie does, where it goes from broader time, like March to May to June. It's going to get tighter and tighter until everything drops, and then it's going to get further and further apart after it drops.
Yes.
So we get very tight here, where it's noon. This is what it was. There is a U.S. ultimatum expires. Now, we don't know, I don't think, what the U.S. ultimatum was, but whatever it was, it expires at 1 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, it was for troops to back out of somewhere. That's what it was, yeah.
At 1 o'clock, there's a B-52 strike on a base, and the Russians defend with nuclear attacks. Most of the B-52s are destroyed. And at 2 o'clock, nuclear retaliation from the U.S. So there it is. So that's the impetus that happened. News report that we don't really need, but is going over the panic buying, people raising prices. We see a boy reporting attacks and shoppers like stealing groceries. We cut to Tuesday, May 24th. People are trying to leave town. The government is taking over supplies. We get news of a U.S. carrier being sunk, and the U.S. blocks Cuba. The Soviet consulates in the U.S. are being attacked, and there's riots in East Germany. The world is turning into chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill, who is Jimmy's father, watches on as people are trying to leave. And there's that whole thing about that family not wanting to wait for the dog, but they have to wait for the dog and all that business. Again, it's too real. Like, in a real movie, we wouldn't bother with all this business, but this feels documentary style, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's too real. We're also going to see a ton of things like hospitals being cleared out for emergency people coming in.
That's right.
Petrol stations will be closed. We get texts talking about potential subversives being arrested.
Yeah, they arrested
in case.
That woman from the protest earlier on as well, yeah.
And from now on, the key points are guarded. So now, Wednesday, May 25th, Mrs. Sutton, this is where you're talking about before, she's packing his suitcase. It's very weird because it's in his office. I don't know why she's packing his suitcase in the office. But he does, and he throws in her picture and like the family picture as well to take with him. This is where the protests are being shut down. Art is being removed from the wall for safekeeping.
Yeah, which I wonder if that's true. Like, I wonder if
I think it might be now, because I think that so much was lost during previous wars that I think that in times like this, it would be likely put it down into some sort of secure basement.
Like down into a vault somewhere, yeah, put everything underground.
Sutton arrives at this little basement area, which is going to be their headquarters, and only half of the people have shown up. Our info officer, Steve, is explaining why everybody's late. Sutton's like, I don't care, just get them here.
His car broke down.
Yeah. Jimmy and Ruth are working on removing wallpaper, and she cries. At 10:30 p.m., fire trucks head out for safety. Thursday, May 26th. Instances for dealing with dead bodies is on the news. Don't bother about burying them yet, but you should wrap them up for the future.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, put them in a plastic bag.
Or if you don't have a plastic bag, then paper or cloth. Ruth has some morning sickness, and the phones are already now disconnected. Emergency officers in the headquarters are all stressed out, and that's pretty much how we'll see them from now until the end. And I think they want to make it seem as though they get more stressed out, but I mean, I guess they do, but they just seem to lose more clothes and smoke more. Like, they don't... They seem pretty stressed out from day one, from as soon as we see them.
I love how they run out of provisions before they run out of cigarettes.
Wouldn't happen, really, right? Unless they had that many cigarettes.
They must have, like, taken them in by the thousands, man. Like, 10,000 cartons of cigarettes.
Especially the way they're smoking.
Yeah.
Non-stop.
Yeah. They're worried about nuclear fallout. I'd be more worried about lung cancer in that room, man. It's just full of secondhand smoke.
Well, as well, other smoke that comes in through the vents and things.
That's what I mean, when the vents are coming in with like all the kind of fallout pollution, it's like, yeah, so what? You're gonna get lung cancer anyway.
But in talking about that, Jimmy's family is doing this fallout preparation where they're like taking mattresses and doors
into the kitchen for some reason
to create a lean-to shelter, which I guess saves the parents sort of.
Yeah, they don't board up the window behind them.
Right.
They board up the door that leads into another room. Like, I don't know. It didn't seem proper to me. Like, no. That's the outside of your house.
I think that's very real. These are probably the things that people were being told to do.
Yeah.
And this movie is saying, well, it's not enough.
Yeah.
As well as, maybe that was part of the message as well, was be more prepared than what they're telling you. You need to be prepared. Things like water. Yeah. It's like nobody had any stored water. It's like, well, that's pretty important.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to cut down to very specifics here. We're looking at the headquarters when the siren comes in and everything turns to chaos. At 8:35, many electrical systems go out because of the explosion. Communications is just completely damaged. 8:37, there's a missile that hits a NATO target. Blast is very big and bright. Sheffield, basically, you can see it.
Yeah.
Right? In the movie, we get to see it. Everybody's looking on. It's just absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
We have a woman who wets herself. We see people just crying and hiding. Jimmy and his friend jump under a truck.
Yeah.
It's just chaotic. Yeah. And that is, for me, the best scene in the whole film. It's just really done well. The way it cuts to everything. It's not overly dramatized like a lot of the disaster movies that we have from, I guess, quote unquote, Hollywood.
Right.
Where in that moment, people would find safety at the last moment. You know, the explosion would be coming their way, and they get just inside the door just in time.
They leave the door open so the dog can jump in.
Yeah, always has a dog. Independence Day, don't give me that dog.
But no, this was one of my main memories from this movie as a kid, and it's something it wasn't the charred and dead bodies that did give me nightmares.
Oh, see, I was thinking it was this point. As soon as the bomb dropped, your parents were like, all right, bed.
They should have. But what really messed me up for some reason was like, and it's painted into my mind, is the melting milk bottles. Because I was like, how does glass melt? That scared me for some reason. Like, wow, that's so hot. But that, when like the milk bottles melt, I totally remember that part. And remember thinking like, oh my God, that's like going into a furnace. How hot is it? And that part really screwed me up for some reason. But yeah, the later on parts was like, although when they go back outside and see all the kind of charred bodies and stuff like that, I think that was when my parents were like, okay, I think you need to go to bed.
And there's a lot of them. And boy, does it look good. I mean, not good it just looks good in a special effects way. Like the makeup and the dead bodies that they created look fantastic. They look too real. Yeah. And that's the last we see of Jimmy. We never see him again. He's gone. And he was trying to get to Ruth, and then
that's it. And it's like the old Hollywood kind of, well, if you didn't see him die, he's not dead. So the whole thing,
I was waiting for Jimmy to appear.
For this, now, like Jimmy's coming back. When's he going to pop up? He doesn't, but Bob comes back.
Yes,
but Jimmy doesn't. Jimmy never surfaces again, and it's like, yep, you're done. The bomb hits. So we get Ruth's family all piling down into the basement. And then we get Jimmy's family all piling into the kitchen, and then basically the explosion comes through their kitchen window, and she gets half of her face burnt off, and yeah. Also, it wasn't so much the charred bodies; it was like the nuclear, like the fallout poisoning, where they're all like puking and stuff like that. That messed me up as a kid as well. I didn't like the fact that I didn't like, and I remember asking my dad like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "Radiation poisoning," and I was like, "Oh my God, what's that?" And then it's like, if you don't get killed in the blast, then you get killed from radiation. Like, what does it do? Like, it gives every part of your body cancer and you slowly die. It's like, okay. This is a lot for a 7-year-old to take in.
It is, I'm sure. I think it's a lot for even an adult to take in.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through kind of day by day at this point. I wanted to display the intense amount of setup they took, like 52 minutes, nearly half of this movie, to get to the point where we're here.
Yeah.
In a way that, for some, I'm not really sure they really needed to see everything or we needed it to be that detailed, but I think they were trying to give you an idea of what are these people's normal life like, what would their life be like leading into uncertain times, and what kind of measures were they being told to do? Because you had, I think Jimmy's father was taking the door off
the
hinges because that's what he was told to do.
Right.
And it's also why Jimmy at the joinery where they had wood supplies, they were having to fight to not sell the wood supplies or not give them away because everybody was desperate to make a kind of shelter. This is what they were trying to do, but I think nobody was adequately prepared to know what to do. I think the basement seemed like one of the best options, but even then, their rations were incredibly limited.
Yeah.
And they just weren't prepared.
I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, how prepared would you be if something happened, even in today's modern age?
Well, I certainly wouldn't be.
I mean, I'd be all right. But I mean, if the power went out, I wouldn't. I mean, my freezer's stacked to the brim. But if I lost electricity for a day, it would all be melted and gone. So, yeah, how much food would you actually have? Probably, I mean, at one point, they're rationing out tins of beans by the spoonful in the basement.
Yes. I think what might be easier to do at this point is to follow some of the storylines through instead of day by day.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've written it down.
So let's talk about the basement. We've got the parents who are pleading with Ruth to ration her water, and then also pleading for her to eat because at one point she doesn't want to eat anymore. We have the grandmother who's obviously very infirm, and she messes the bed. And then she also ends up dying. They have to take her upstairs. That's when Ruth runs away.
Yeah.
Her parents will return to the basement and survive for a while. Some looters, I guess, kill them. We're given that impression, but we don't know if they were
I didn't think that they did. I thought that I think even the soldiers that catch them and, well, they shoot one of the looters. I think even the soldiers go down, there's 2 dead in the basement, but they've been dead for a long time.
See, I wasn't sure if they said they'd been dead for a long time or if they said that his head had been bashed in or something. Either way.
Maybe the wife tried to kill him.
Over those beans.
Yeah, the tin of beans to the head.
But yeah, it was pretty much, that was it. One of the scenes for them that really hit home to me was they've been in the basement so long that they're looking at the clock going, it's 2. Is that 2 in the morning or 2 at night? And he's like, I'm not really sure. I think it's night.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I would say as well is that if you are watching this, if you somehow find a place to watch this movie today, because I don't know where you would find it. It's not on Netflix, that's for sure. But yeah, the Sheffield accent is not easy. There's some, even for me as a guy from the UK, some parts where I'm like, wow, that's really thick. I can understand it, but it's like, that's pretty thick. I don't think a lot of maybe foreigner people who are outside of the UK, like non-native speakers, would have a really tough time with this. And maybe even Americans. I don't know if you picked up on everything, but they've got a lot of outs and weird
I
bits.
didn't seem to have too much trouble with this part, but when the language gets altered
towards the end. Yeah.
But I think that was the point.
That was the point, yeah.
But yeah, these guys, just tragic. Bill and his wife, so Jimmy's parents, they're in really bad shape.
They take the brunt of it, yeah.
The mom in particular. Michael was hanging out with the birds. He's probably dead.
They do find his shoe.
The daughter, we have no idea where she is.
Yeah.
And Bill is, even at one point, he's trying to get water for his wife, but he's so stupid about it. Like, he turns on the water, checks that it's water, and then gets out a colander.
Yeah, no, that was like, what? What are you doing?
And then he takes off wandering with a teapot, and he finds, I think, some irradiated water. He tries to drink it, and he can't.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just really filthy.
Yeah, that was quite funny. No, not funny. It's,
just tragic.
Whenever I say funny, I don't mean funny. But you'll laugh when I tell you what happened. So when I was watching that last night, one thing I'll say about this is the acting, right? Because this is a good transition point for the whole movie. The first part to me was so British and it was so Coronation Street for me. And I didn't like the acting, but man, they can be miserable. Like, the British are really good at being miserable. And the acting changes. Like, it's almost like a switch that goes off where it's like, okay, you've done your normal everyday English life. Now we want you to be like really miserable and in pain and suffering. And they're like, yeah, man, I can do that. But when he did that and he spat it out, I honestly, I'm going to put my hand up and swear, I actually was having a drink or something and I spat out my drink watching him spit it out because I was like, oh no, that's disgusting. Don't drink that. And then I spat out my own drink and I had to go and get a tissue. I wiped myself all down my t-shirt. Like, what am I doing? What? So, I mean, that's how good that part was I actually physically had a reaction to it. It was late, but yeah.
His wife is going to die. He is going to wander off.
He never goes back. Like, he just leaves her.
But I think he doesn't leave her, I think, until she's actually dead.
Ah, okay. Okay, that would
at least that's my supposition.
I thought he was away to get water. Yeah, so he goes away with the pot. And...
Yeah, but I think the very next time we see her, she's already dead. So yes. I'm assuming that by the time he's able to make it back...
Even back from the kitchen, maybe she was already dead. Because she does kind of roll over and like start puking again. And that's one thing. He's obviously got severe radiation poisoning.
Yeah, his pillow is covered in blood as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. He ends up trading smokes
for a bottle
of scotch, whiskey, I think. Yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much the end for him. We get a sad black and white photo.
Yeah, his first swig of the whiskey, he just like pukes it everywhere, spits it out. It's like, good trade. But yeah, he's done, and then he dies. That's it. That's Jimmy's.
Dies to the sound of Michael's ColecoVision game he plays.
Oh god, yeah. Oh my god, yeah. So that whole family is wiped out. Then that's all of them.
Right. Done. Headquarters just progressively gets worse. We get a lot of information from headquarters. Probably for me one of the best sections of the whole thing because it feels the most real and impactful. This group should have been the most set and prepared, and even they are in dire straits, running out of food, running out of smokes, running out of everything. They've had to close off the fresh air ventilators, at least for a while, because of all the smoke coming in.
One of the guys is already dead from the blast.
And then immediately, like almost immediately after that, they go, oh, bring me another bin liner, because somebody else has died as well.
Yeah.
And they're buried in, they can't get out. And they keep saying, when are we going to get out? When are we going to get out? It's obviously getting hot in there as like clothes start coming off. All the men are in their undershirts now. It just builds to such disaster. And everybody just, even at their worst, it really just feels like they're bickering. This feels a bit like the House of Commons, right?
Right.
There's no fist fighting. There's no real kind of grandiose, oh, I'm better than you, da-da-da. There's none of that kind of drama going on. It's just everybody is miserable and everybody's trying.
Yeah.
And that's what we get. And it's going to lead up to the end part where they're all just found dead by the time the soldiers finally are able to dig them out. But it's also this part where they have to make the tough decisions, where they're saying we have to ration out. Workers get 1,000 calories. People who aren't working get 500. And they're saying, what is 500 calories? I don't know, a couple slices of bread?
Some soup?
Yeah. Like, how can we expect people to live like this? Well, how can we survive otherwise? Do we give food to this whole region? Do we help this whole region? No, they're pretty much dead already. We have to focus on the ones who can survive.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
And that to me is, like, I think the other stuff is very impactful in the way that you see it, and you can kind of interact personally to it. But seeing the kind of decisions that would have to be made, this is where I really was just kind of, my jaw dropped going, oh, that's awful. Like, when I heard the 500 calories, that's nothing.
Yeah, that is like 2 slices of toast a day. And that's it. That will be the choices that you'd have to make. Not like just let them die. They're already dead. What's the point in feeding them? Jesus. Oh yeah, I didn't mention that part. Is just to show you how mad it would be when the bomb actually does drop. There's one part where there's a guy on a bike up a tree on fire. Do you remember that point? He's like, his bike is lodged up in a tree with him still on it.
Right.
It must have just got blown up there.
For the rest of the movie, we're pretty much just going to follow Ruth because she's the only one that is left. We're going to be told all sorts of information about how difficult things are going to be. There won't be enough fuel, so they'll only have fuel for agriculture for this one last season. And they'll have to make do with what they can get, and there won't be much.
That season's not going to be good because of nuclear winter and...
So they're not using tractors as harvesters. They're using like 50 people to pull to try and make that work.
I mean, literally bombed back to the Stone Age, pretty much.
There's not much as far as food. Medical care is pretty much non-existent.
Oh, that bit in the hospital was brutal, man.
I put something in my notes about it being like mummies walking to their death. I mean,
that's what I said.
It
was like zombies just marching into a hospital. It was like they're all on autopilot, just like...
It was the most horrific thing of just the
stairs are washing with blood and just like, oh man.
We're just watching doctors hack away pieces of people because that's all they can do.
Yeah, they go back to the old, like 300 years ago amputations by saws and things like that. It looked to me like a vision of hell. It was like a Bosch painting of hell in there, man. It was it was horrible.
We're also going to see a scene of a tennis club, which has been converted into a sort of prison. We're also going to see people desperate for food and the soldiers gassing them to keep them back, to protect what little stores they have.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing as well. It's like, if that is true as well, like, it seems like a lot of effort would go into policing the nation.
It seems like it, yeah.
Because you would have, it would be Fallout. It would be like the game. It would be absolute madness. You would have every man for himself, and you would need some kind of law. And yeah, that's really scary. And even when you get the bit where they shoot the looters and stuff like that, and they're shooting people over a tin of beans, you know, pretty much. Yeah, it is basically like Mad Max, but 1984. You know,
they've done a good job of that. I don't think I mentioned this before, but all the dates from now on add in how many days it's been or how many months since the attack.
Yeah, it's like attack plus 5 days. Yeah, attack plus. I think by the end it gets up to plus 13 years.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It starts very tight and then it gets looser and looser and looser. Yeah. We're going to get up to about 5 weeks and all the supplies are running out. There's a huge exodus from the city because the cities are just destroyed and there's hope that there's supplies outside. So this is where we're
wandering into the countryside.
Yeah, this is where we really start following Ruth as she's taking off and all of the things that she does. So she gets put into an old man's home with like 4 other people. It's kind of commandeered. You need to take in these homeless people. He kicks them out.
He just boots them out as soon as the officers are gone, pretty much. But that's so very much like the American thing where the British were given rule to like quarter in people's homes, wasn't it? Like before the Independence War. Like the British had the power to just like walk into anyone's home. And I don't know. Again, I'm not totally down on American history, but it seems to be a very similar thing where it's like, oh, you have a house, nice house, we're moving in. And you had to feed them and, things like that. Like, yeah, I can understand, like, guys, like, I'm not having 4 strangers in my house. Like, people are murdering each other over packets of crisps. Like,
right.
Yeah, so I would kick them out as well if I was that old man. I'm on his side.
But I'm actually kind of surprised that it happened, that the 4 didn't outnumber him.
That's the other thing, yeah. I'm surprised that they didn't. Let's make this movie even more depressing. Let's have them beat this old man to death. But I don't see why they didn't do it, because it's like, oh, yeah, the old man won.
Yeah, the old man won against these 4 younger, stronger people.
Yeah.
This is also the point where Bob, Jimmy's mate from before.
He meets Ruth, doesn't he?
Yeah, and so they start hanging around together. They find a dead sheep like a week later and debate whether or not it's okay to eat, but they do anyway, and they just eat it raw.
Yeah, they don't even cook it. That's pretty gross. Yeah.
Desperation.
Yep.
So from 6 weeks, we cut to 4 months after the attack. They, again, info dump us with direct effects of the attack, death between 17 to 38 million, which is a wide variety.
Mm-hmm.
Some die from the heat, the blast, the fallout. That's kind of the majority. And then everybody else is going to start dying because they're weak, they're cold, they're hungry. One thing that was interesting is how they talk about how cold everything will get because of how...
Nuclear winter, yeah.
Yeah. And if the sun does come out, the UV rays will be even stronger, so it's going to burn your skin. So it's just this completely unpleasant environment to live in, where it's either going to be really cold or when you do finally get sun, it burns you.
Right, yeah.
They talk about, I think this is narration, talk about in spring, agriculture is going to be hurt because they just don't have the tools that they had before. Ruth is hiding in some sort of shelter to give birth. It's actually alive, which I was kind of surprised by.
I was worried it was going to come out with like 15 fingers and things like that.
And the way she looked at it, I wasn't sure what she was going to do with the baby.
Yeah.
And then we see her biting flesh, and I was also worried what were they trying to say, but she was...
Cutting the umbilical cord.
Yes. Yeah. Thank goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
that's the one thing, actually, that they don't have in this movie is cannibalism.
Yes, as far as we know.
And I think the only reason that they don't have that is because it would have put their rating off of television. Because I think back in the day, like Cannibal Holocaust and things like that, those were all like banned movies, weren't they? I think back in the 80s, anything that involved cannibalism was an instant, like X-rated, you can't show that anywhere. And so I think that's the only reason it's missing from this movie, because this is a supreme candidate for cannibalism.
It certainly would be. We cut to December 25th, traditionally Christmas.
Oh, God, the worst Christmas ever.
The baby is crying. Everybody just sits around a tiny fire, just in shock and staring.
Yeah.
We're told winter destroys the young and the old. No surprise there. We cut now to March, 10 months after the attack. Ruth is in a group that is trying to steal grain, and she's trying to grind it out with some sort of wooden log or something. Yeah. And then we cut to May, so 1 year after the attack. Ruth is making some sort of deal for rats, which I guess we could imply she was having to do something bad just to get those rats.
I'm guessing they were implying, prostitution for 3 rats.
This is where we get the info dump about the skies being clear and the sunlight will have a heavier UV ray. And because of that, you have high risks of all cancers. Agriculture is going to be difficult because of bugs, disease, no fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to 3 to 8 years after the attack.
Yep.
Population reaches its minimum, 4 to 11 million. Things are at medieval levels. Conjecture, but in many ways likely possible.
Yep.
Right? Now, 10 years after the attack, and Ruth and her daughter are farming, though the way that they're farming it makes no sense to me. They just look like they're raking some grass.
Yeah.
So, I hope you've learned more about farming in 10 years than this, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think the movie doesn't do well is, and maybe they just wanted to keep it fully depressing, but they don't seem to show you like exactly what you just said. Like, okay, you've had 10 years. How did we deal with the situation? Like, what measures did we put in place to actually make a living, and how did we manage to claw our way back? They're just implying that we
It would just always be bad. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically 10 years later, I think this is where Ruth, she looks like she's 97 years old. She's got cataracts. And
her teeth are falling out.
I mean, she's aged like 50 years and 10 years, and basically Ruth dies. And I love this part because the kid just looks at her, doesn't have any emotion, and just loots the body and leaves the book. Because she can't read, obviously.
Well, she can't read, and also how many birds are left to look at.
Yeah, true.
It's a book about bird watching, essentially.
So yeah, just no emotion, nothing, just, okay, bye.
The kids are watching this show called Words and Pictures, which is probably the only tape that they have left.
Yeah.
Because the old lady has it memorized, clearly. And it's all just about skeletons. Ooh, what's that a skeleton of?
Oh, yeah,
that's a cat. Great, thanks. And then the part where they're taking the fabric apart, you said before.
Right.
The language that the kids are speaking is not quite English. It's almost
devolved.
like they created their own language for some things. Cut to 13 years after, some boys try and steal a rabbit from this daughter, and then they seem to be hanging out, like they're scavenging together and running away, and then one gets shot. The remaining boy and this daughter, they fight over some bread, apparently, which leads to something else.
Yeah.
Because we're going to see her pregnant and walking through an even more desolate area with feet hanging. Obviously, the whole body is hanging.
Oh, yeah, there's 3 or 4 people hung, at this point, or hanged.
She's desperately trying to get to what counts for a hospital, even though it's
beds with no mattresses, just
even though it's closed, so that she can give birth. But when she does, last second of the movie, here's your stillborn baby in a bloody cloth.
Yeah.
Freeze frame on her,
like taking the breath to scream, like,
yeah.
End of movie.
End of movie. By Barry Hines. Thank you.
By Barry Hines, yeah. And no music, just absolute silence.
This has bumped up to very quickly to be one of my top most depressing films of all time. This would probably be number 3, and mostly just number 3 because I didn't really feel connected to any of the characters in any way.
You've got a top 10 depressing.
Well, I have a top 3.
Well, just before we go on, you got to tell me what's 1 and 2.
Johnny Got His Gun.
Haven't seen it.
And Grave of the Fireflies.
I can definitely understand that.
So those would definitely be my top 2. This one would be now number 3. I can't think of what would be number 4. After watching this, I don't want to think what was number 4.
No more.
It has definitely informed me, which I think is what the movie intended to do. It definitely made me feel a bit of shock. I didn't realize to this level. And this whole movie has just given me horrible memories of the time my friend took me to the Peace Museum in Nagasaki.
Okay.
Devoted to what happened when
exactly
they
this
had the bomb dropped on them. And yeah, I walked out of there just completely stunned and in shock. And many of the images that they used in this film related very much to some of the things that I saw in pictures and video that they have at that museum. Just absolutely horrific. I think the only thing I didn't really see in the film that I saw in the museum would be the images that were left on walls.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because wherever people were, a kind of shadow was left behind.
Yeah.
And that's just one more level that the movie didn't do that it could have, but it doesn't need to. It absolutely hits you with information. It hits you with people, what they would be going through, and it's not happy.
No, definitely not. And that's the thing. It's like, I think what the movie was trying to do was, like what I said in the beginning, was make everyone realize this is not a path we want to go down, and you should be out there. I think what they were trying to do is you should be out there protesting, like, to ban the bomb, nuclear disarmament, all these things. It was trying to motivate people into, like, scare people into, like, getting out of this mind frame where it's like, oh, it's just, MAD, mutually assured destruction kind of thing. It's like, this is what's going to happen. And that's the thing about what happened in Japan is so horrific, is it takes a special mind to be like, okay, we're going to do this. Like, holy whatever, I can't say that because I have to bleep it out, but, like, I'll just say anyway, holy, like, you're not dropping a bomb on soldiers. You're not in the middle of a war. You're dropping bombs on, like, women, children, grandmothers, grandfathers. It's not, this isn't the actual field of war. Like, that's horrific. Absolutely horrific. And yeah, I don't know. It was, I think it's a good episode for us to talk about this. Because, like I said, not a lot of people know about this. And it is a very traumatic, and it's a decent film that I think a lot of people will not have seen because maybe they were too young. And a lot of people won't have seen because it's maybe too niche. It was only in the UK and it's not available anywhere. You'll have to try and find this somehow on the internet if you want to see it. It may well be on YouTube. I'll have a look for it and see if I can get a link for it. But yeah, it's a definite gap to fill. To fill your top 3 most depressing movies ever. How do you feel about that? There you go. Are you glad I recommended it to you, though?
I don't
Just
know.
shaking his head at me.
It was well made, and I guess overall I'm glad I saw it, but this is going to haunt me for days, at least.
Gaps filled or more gaps created.